Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to the CPPR Dialogue. The CPPR Dialogue is a dynamic webinar series that brings together policy experts, business leaders, and practitioners to engage in meaningful conversation on pressing policy challenges, fostering informed debate and impactful solution. In this edition of the CPPR Dialogue, we present an insightful discussion on Agrivoltaics as a dual solution powering energy needs and food security. I'm Shobha Vasan, Associate Research and Projects at CPPR, and I have the privilege of moderating today's session. It's a pleasure to have you with us as we explore a critical and forward looking concept in sustainable agriculture, agrivoltaics, as also known as agri-photovoltaics. This approach integrates solar energy generation with farming on the same lines. It offers a promising solution to two of India's major challenges food security and the growing demand for clean energy. According to the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, utilizing just 1% of India's agricultural land could generate approximately 630 gigawatts of solar power, a remarkable figure compared to the current installed capacity of about 82 gigawatts. Through today's discussion, we aim to explore the potential policy environment and future prospects of agrivoltaics in India. We are honored to have with us today two distinguished speakers, Mr. Vimal Panchwani and Mr. Subhadeep Basu. Unfortunately, Mr. Mohit Kumar, Policy Associate at the National Energy Federation of India, could not join us due to the heavy rainfall and a landslide incident in Himachal Pradesh. Such incidents, which are becoming increasingly frequent across the country, serve as a stark reminder of the importance of addressing climate change and adopting climate smart technologies. Mr. Vimal Panchwani, CEO and founder of Agrivoltaic, leads a mission to empower farmers and renewable energy solutions that enhance savings and boost income and contribute to climate change mitigation. With extensive experience in building successful agri-tech and social impact ventures, he brings valuable on-ground insights into how clean energy can transform rural livelihoods. We are delighted to have him as a speaker in today's webinar. Welcome, sir.
Hello, morning.
Good morning, sir. Next, we have Mr. Subhadeep Basu, Research Fellow with ICRIO's APSI team. He's an economist with more than a half year's decades experience in rural livelihood research and impact evolution. His work spans farmer collectives, agriculture soilization, and groundwater economy. We are delighted to welcome him as a speaker for today's webinar. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Shobha, for this invitation to this event.
Thank you once again for joining us. Let's now begin with the discussion. If you have any questions, please feel free to share them in the live chat. We will be addressing them towards the end of the session. So, to begin with, I would like to ask Mr. Subhadeep Basu, how about agrivoltaics? Because agrivoltaics is a new concept in our country's context. So, do you think the experience from Western countries can be effectively applied in our country, given our policy and governance challenges?
Very relevant question, Shobha. Firstly, thank you to you and CPPR for organizing this event. I know there's a lot of traction these days in agrivoltaics, so I feel the discussion is very well timed. Coming to your question, if you look at agrivoltaics in terms of the policy landscape, it is still at nascency in India. We have around 40-45 odd pilots, and sizable number of these pilots are all just in research institutes or academic think tanks. Majorly, the purpose is to create and generate more evidence on the crop productivity and the solar infrastructure. The commercial uptake of agri PV is still at a nascency; it's still yet to uptake. And on that front, I feel like we did a research when we started doing a research in agri PV. We started with doing a global review of agri PV, if there are any crucial lessons that India could draw from other countries who have managed to some extent successfully commercially scale this kind of innovation up. So, like you said, there are Western countries like France and Germany, but there are also Asian countries like China and Japan from where crucial lessons could be drawn. If I have to talk about China, because China is a country where we are always very interested in what they are doing and what is it that we can probably leverage from them. China introduced the PV poverty alleviation program, and like within this program, the energy producers were provided with tax incentives. Your PPAs were streamlined. Your grid infrastructure was developed. This was majorly done to incentivize the solar energy producers. Similarly, if we look at Japan, Japan introduced this concept called feed-in premium. So where they offer a premium over the market rate of the feed-in tariff. This is again done to make the proposition of selling energy more commercially attractive. These are again, policies which are not just exclusive for agrivoltaics, but these were extended to agrivoltaics projects as well. Now, if I take the example of countries like France and Germany, particularly, they have in fact introduced policies which are particularly focusing on agri PV. And the type of policy in both these countries is somewhat similar. They have introduced certain benchmarks when it comes to agri PV. Benchmarks in terms of what should be the crop yield loss, maximum permissible crop yield loss, how much of land should be provided to your solar infrastructure at max. These kind of policies or these kind of benchmarks, if you have in practice, then you can ensure that when solar energy generation becomes more profitable, agriculture still remains in focus. Otherwise, if we talk about these two products in agrivoltaics, energy and crop, energy in most cases would be far more profitable. So it is highly possible that in coming days, energy generation could gain precedence over your crop production. So such kinds of benchmarks, if you have in place, it secures the agri part in agri PV. In India, like I already said, we are operating at a nascency. We do not even have a designated policy as such in agrivoltaics for now. But there could be like these kinds of lessons could be drawn from other countries. One, in terms of how to make it more financially lucrative for energy producers, and two, what should be the benchmarks in when we are talking about agrivoltaics. And these kinds of learnings, they have to be then again customized based on the policy, governance, and agrarian realities of India. The key lies in adaptation and not just replication of this policy. But yeah, there are definitely crucial lessons that India could draw in its journey of scaling agri PV commercially.
Yes, sir, we understand there is a lack of policy in the state, but Vimal sir, can you explain what are the ground realities of the state? Can farmers easily adopt agrivoltaics? Do you think that it's feasible for Indian farmers to adopt agrivoltaics and it is scalable to like the Western countries, say China, Japan, or other countries like France?
So see, I think as Shubhadeep rightly said, agrivoltaics is very at a very nascent stage right now in India. Even if you ask me like how many agrivoltaic projects are there in India, it will be in like very two-digit number kind of a thing, because everyone is experimenting and evolving like how is it's going to work, because we know that 70% population still resides in rural areas, and we are a agrarian economy where 60% population is actually working and directly indirectly in agriculture. So things are very complex, because see, it is just not the solar energy we are talking about here. We are also talking the impact on the agriculture side of it. So we are already moving towards the food security goals aligned with the UN SDG, and if that gets impacted, we as a country, we will have more impact. But having said that, if we channelize that into a power, that if the same land can be used to generate solar energy along with the agriculture, I think it is going to be very impactful. So I feel agrivoltaics is yet to evolve in the complete shape, and there will be lots of experiments, pivots happening around it, and we are also part of that. And I think we like last year in the RE Invest, we decided that we'll launch Agrivoltaics with India's first vertical bifacial solar. So the technology is new and good because it comes from a German company, which is a veteran in the sector, next to Sun, where we are partnered with, and we are soon going to launch the our first 100 kilowatt agrivoltaic project in Madhya Pradesh, which is going to be very you can say learningful or research oriented, because we will learn a lot of new things, because we are bringing in the same context of open access of electricity, where we are going to sell the electricity to Discom, under the Kusum component A, which is very important when you talk about agrivoltaics. The PM Kusum component A becomes very important because our honorable PM wants this country to become energy independent and financially independent with solar energy, and we have seen the clear results of PM Surya Nirbhar Yojana and PM Kusum Yojana. They have worked very beautifully, and we have now access to solar water pumps and the solar on-grid solutions for the urban side. Now, the MNRE brought this PM Kusum component A for the purpose of making farmers energy producers, because they're already a food producer. They have been part of the value chain. Now they are making them count in the value chain of the renewable and green energy or the energy production. And if you ask us, we have reached to a stage where farmers definitely can use 5 to 10% or 15% of their land to for the solar energy production. And the technology which we are bringing, like we per se in terms of Agrivoltaic and next to sun, is a technology where we can actually have a 90% utilization of the land despite the solar energy is put in. So you still have a 90% of land available for the agriculture production, and 10% is used for your solar energy production. I think that is where the advantage is, because the vertical bifacial solar panel gives you the edge, putting those panels among the crops, and which are good heighted, or often we say that we have seen the pivots in the Madhya Pradesh Agrivoltaics in Sagar as well, where they have put in 12 feet height in the solar panel. So I think agrivoltaics is evolving, and with technologies like we are bringing and many others will bring in, this sector is going to evolve. Lots of experiment is going to happen, lots of pivots are going to happen, and lots of policy iteration will also happen, because government has put in this policy not in thinking of the agrivoltaics perspective today. So PM component A comes with a solar technology with the agriculture usage per se. So right now we are focusing that the energy produced or the electricity produced should be utilized in that area or periphery by the farmers or FPOs, because the demand of value chain in food production is going very high. Whether you are a dal mill producer or a solar atta chakki user, you are going to use that energy for your usage. And commercially also it becomes viable, because when there is a grid supply which is coming at an economical rate, or almost negligible, you are bound to use it more and more efficient, and you are more productive as well. So I believe this is going to evolve, and I think we have seen the traction and interest coming at Agrivoltaic as well. That people are now looking to give their land for agrivoltaics. They are mentally prepared that okay, we can put our agriculture and agrivoltaics on a single farm and sell electricity to Discom. And when Discom have this kind of options, I think Discom also can minimize their weight or baggage of energy demand coming in from the audience or the population. So the states where the demand is very high, and agriculture is good, I think agrivoltaics is going to be a boon for them. So I think things are positive. We are going in the right direction, and lots of pivots are happening. I think around 20 to 25 pivots are happening, or projects are happening in agrivoltaics by 25 26, where we will witness new innovations coming in and new technologies coming in, even from countries, from areas like Europe and Germany. The technologies will jump in, and we will see lots of experiments happening, including the Indian innovation sector.
Sure, sir. Like now, since Vimal has pointed out like Indian farmers as an energy producers, but we know that in our country, 80% of land is marginal or fragmented. So when we talk about integrating solar panel and also maintaining cultivation, I think it's very difficult to scale up. So I would like to ask Subhadeep sir, like what kind of business or cooperative models can be used to make APV adoption economically viable for the farmers? Or is it possible to do agriculture in such a marginal APV in such marginal lands?
If I may start with the business models that are currently at place, largely There are two kinds. One where private developers are leasing in land from farmers, and farmers receives the lease amount, and the entire energy revenue and the agriculture revenue goes to the private developer. The other component, the other business model which is gradually gaining traction is the PM Kusum component A, and I completely agree with Mr. Vijay that PM Kusum is the policy platform. Like even if you have to do something in agrivoltaics, we do not need a separate policy as such, but we can actually do that using the existing policy platform in Kusume. But again, in Kusume, if we know that there is no subsidy, so there it's majorly your big farmers with relatively large land holding who are managing to invest. So with when it comes to smallholders with limited purchasing capacity, both these two models could be slightly difficult for them to partake. So the model that we are proposing, and we have recently, formed a partnership with an organization called Hyper International. This is we are going based on the partnership. We are going to launch an agri PV, which will be implemented through an FPO in Odisha, and this is in Koraput. It's a tribal area, and as you all might know, in Odisha there is no agri PV as such. An FPO implemented agri PV we do not have. So if we have to think about including or involving your small holders, one way to do it should be through a collective model where you involve a farmer institution instead of an individual farmer. Now, one challenge again is that land should be contiguous. So the location that we identified there, the land holding is contiguous. It is within 2 kilometers from the substation. They're already growing your high value cultivation like vegetables, so the cropping pattern did not change. But again, the challenge here still is that the capex is still high. 1 megawatt would roughly cost you 3.5 to 4 crore rupees. That for your tribal smallholders, that is still a very high amount to pay. So here the grant component becomes very important. So High for International, they are bringing in grant component. We are raising funds from other sources, majorly to meet the capital expense. Now, this grant aspect is one way to do it. But if you want to implement APV through FPOs in coming days, we cannot depend only on grants, because with grants our operations would be somewhat limited. So there it is in such situations it is important that financial institutions provide support. Now, what kind of support could they provide? One could be your interest subvention schemes. You could have your credit guarantee schemes provided to your smallholders. Next up, there are already credit guarantee schemes being provided by NABARD. Can capital subsidy be provided, especially to when smallholders are trying to do in an FPO mode? And the most important factor when it comes to economic viability of any solar project is the feed-in tariff. So when we're talking about an FPO implemented APV, can the feed-in tariff be slightly higher, considering the inclusivity of this model? So these are the kind of proposals that we had. We ran them by with the ministry there. We discussed with the senior level bureaucrats. Last 2 weeks back, we launched this pilot through a formal event in Bhubaneswar, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to ensure that this sees the light of day and it becomes the first FPO-led pilot in Agri PV. But again, there will be challenges, and the major challenge that I see is the capital cost. Here we are managing to do it through grant, but if you want to scale this up, then we would need support from other institutions, whether it's government institution or financial institution.
So I agree to what Subhadeep has said. I think there is one major component for agrivoltaics is going to be, the cost, which comes at in terms of the procurement, because you are bringing in new technology, lots of research is happening. So definitely the cost is going to be the deciding factor in the initial phase. But I feel the arrangements, like, if we have a PPAs with Discom, where you have 25 years or 20 years PPA, you are selling electricity to Discom, and you have a tri-party agreement with the farmer or a private entity or an NGO, getting involved with the project developer or a EPC installer. I think things are going to work. It's just that, everybody should know what is their role in the project. For agrivoltaics, there are multiple parties involved. There is one farmer who has a land. I think there is one developer who's going to develop the project, who's bringing the technology. or the installation, and there will be another partner who is leveraging this or facilitating this whole transaction, because you need regulatory approval support coming in, in terms of the subsidy provided by the government. That is one. Second is definitely, like Subhadeep said, there is grant or financing coming into the picture. So the interaction with the NBFC banking will be a different scenario altogether in the project. And another is the consumer on that side, which can be a discom or an entity which wants an electricity. We have been experimenting this, I think from last 1 year with Next to Sun, that we are also trying to onboard kind of an agriculture university where we can deploy 100 kilowatt agrivoltaics, and they can use the electricity to minimize their electricity cost, by giving the land. And because agriculture industries are also growing seeds and experimenting, lots of horticulture crops varieties, also species, so they can actually showcase that we are experimenting this new crop variety or a horticulture experimentation, or growing of the crops in their land in the campus, while they produce solar energy for themselves. That will be a good example to for everyone, that how agrivoltaics coexist. So we are also trying to have a conversation with, like, we are having multiple conversation with agriculture universities, and we might be successful having one pilot coming in for that, because it's a good use case where that the agriculture university is already consuming electricity, because for students and for the campus, that is where we are also working on. And as Subhadeep said, financing is going to play a vital role in scaling agrivoltaics across India, because the project becomes huge in terms of cost when they go to megawatt. So, when they are up to 1,000 kilowatt, they're still in the range of execution. But I feel once they cross the megawatt range, I think the cost is going to be a deciding factor.
So connected to that, I would also like to ask, like, it's important for farmers to have awareness about such schemes or agrivoltaics or etc. So when we talk to farmers about adaptation of agrivoltaics in their field, generally they're reluctant. Like that's the thing which we get, at least sitting here in Kerala talking to the farmers here. So how to create an awareness, like from a startup kind of thing, like how do you
See,
approach farmers?
I think Agrivijay was born mainly for, if you ask me, Agrivijay's purpose or existence has because of this only. You can see that solar energy and biogas and green energy, in like solar biogas mainly, they are there for more than 5 decades. They have subsidy component from the government. They have support coming from the government, and they have been there for more than 5 decades. But even today, if you ask any farmer, they do not have knowledge how a solar water pump works or a solar inverter works. And even today, the trust on the technology is less, because what has happened over the years is, the manufacturers have focused on, the because of the typical dealer distributor model, the manufacturer focused on selling, and I feel renewable energy is like a farmer sector. You cannot recommend a solution without understanding the disease or the problem. And once you do that, there is a wrong misfit or wrong strategic fit. And if that happens, farmer or rural household are going to lose the trust on the technology. So if today's solar water pump fails, let's assume, I will not buy a solar dryer, because I feel the solar technology has failed. But the fact is the product has failed. The product was not good. So my belief system works like that. All solar are bad. If one solar goes bad, every solar is bad. So that psyche has impacted a lot in adoption. So if you ask me why renewable energy adoption is very low, even today, we are the only startup in the renewable energy space doing the work, making these products available at the village level. So we have been calling for competition, but still there is no competition or direct competition coming for us. I think that's where the challenge is, because the adoption is going to take time. Education awareness has to happen before they become renewable energy producers and consumers. So at Agrivijay, what we have done is we are educating more farmer about, more than the selling, we are doing more education. Because if education happens, they will automatically turn to these technologies. And for that, we have done is we have deployed artificial intelligence chatbots in local languages like Telugu, Marathi, Gujarati, Hindi, because we want farmers to interact more and know more. If they know more, they will ultimately switch to these technologies. Because what has happened is I don't know how a solar sprayer works, how a biogas digester works, how a electric brush cutter works, how a solar sprayer works. So until and unless I don't know and what is my cost comparison, whatever I'm using today, I will not switch to these technologies. And I need a trust. I need a company or a person who can hear me out. Because what has happened is the after sales service component in this sector has actually failed people not to switch to these technologies. So if tomorrow my solar water pump is not working, I need somebody to call and come to repair it so that I can use it again before I switch to diesel genset again to run my electric pump again. So that is missing where the link is and where we are also working around it. And I think it will take some time, but I feel now farmers are also becoming aware, and they are trying new technologies. 10 years down the line, because of the government support initiative, startup culture, ecosystem, I think this sector is going to evolve, and people will have more knowledge, when they will make some decision. I feel 10 years down the line, farmer is going to make decision that I'll keep some land for, solar production, because that's a earning part for me, and, some part for agriculture, which is also an earning part, but both of the needs are getting fulfilled. So I think we are on that trajectory. It's just the start of the journey, which is going to happen across India. And I think we as a nation, once we have a trust on the technology, and we have, put in place a mechanism of after sales repair, making the products available, I think we'll be, doing awesome things in the future ahead as a country as well. Because just imagine if all farmers become renewable energy producers and consumers, we are going to contribute, I think as a whole, to the climate action movement happening globally. So, we will be reducing carbon, greenhouse gas emission along with producing energy altogether. So I think that the game is going to change in the future for sure.
Shubha,
So, like,
if I may just quickly add to that, I completely agree. This there is definitely an awareness issue, and while startup is doing their bit, but you also have agencies at place, right? You have KVKs, Krishi Vigyan Kendras at place. So agriculture extension agencies have a very crucial role to play when it comes to raising awareness. Apart from that, grievance redressal, after sale service, I'm completely in agreement. Leave a small holder, even if we talk about a PM Kusum component A beneficiary, and this is based on my on our personal experience of interacting with a farmer. A PM Kusum component A farmer is typically a large farmer. If there is any issue that he is facing, he does not know whom to reach out to. That experience differs from state to state, but this is from Madhya Pradesh that I'm talking about. They did not know whom to reach out to. And when you have such issues being faced by even the people with higher purchasing capacity, you can imagine what can the smallholder do. And I totally agree. If the farmer's experience with something as fundamental or basic as solar pump goes wrong, he would not be wanting to invest in a solar power plant. Essentially, an agri PV is a solar power plant, right? So the awareness issue is definitely important, but also the grievance redressals, the after sale service are equally important when we are trying to, bring smallholders within the ambit of for newer innovation.
so related to that, only I had to ask this question. Like, majorly the present pilots are all situated in the fallow lands. There is no such cultivation where some crop is integrated. But when we talk about solar and crop production, we say that the crops like horticultural crops or the crops which need shades can grow really well under the solar panels. So, how do you think that we can integrate this solar panel with production so that the crop part or the food security part is also catered to? So,
Yeah, so you're right that most of the pilots that are happening are on the western side of the country. Uh, a lot of these pilots, but I would not say that all the pilots are happening in fallow land. Some of the pilots are happening in your fertile agricultural land. But I do agree to your point. Agri PV is still, like Mr. Vijay also said, it's operating in two digits, but we still have high, considerable solar power plants. And if I may talk about PM Kusum component A, And I'll try, would like to use this platform to inform the audience, because this is based on our learning, based on the interaction with the farmer. When PM Kusum component A came to the picture, it was categorically mentioned that barren lands and fallow lands would be used to set up your solar power plants. That situation now has changed. Your agricultural lands are being taken up to install your ground mounted PV. So essentially, if you have a 1 megawatt plant, your 4 to 5 acres of land is gone to your solar infrastructure for the next 25 years till you have the PPA. You would not be able to cultivate land. We are trying to do a pilot with a farmer. He's a PM Kusum component A in Rajasthan, and Rajasthan, like is the leading state when it comes to component A. So here, here also that plant is installed in a fertile land. And one major reason the farmer got convinced with our proposal of agri PV is because he feels that for 25 years I would not be able to cultivate otherwise. Prior to installation of ground mounted solar PV in that land, he used to cultivate. So he is a farmer. He's a big farmer, but he's a farmer. He had all the knowledge of doing agriculture. And what we are trying to do is to retrofit it into a design that allows your solar infrastructure to exist, so that the farmer can use it for selling energy, which he's already doing, but alongside he can produce crops. So the design bit becomes very important, so that you have considerable spacing between the your rows of panels. The optimum amount of sunlight is able to reach. Most of the crops that we see have performed well are like your typically your, like you said, shade loving crops, turmeric, uh, tomato, cauliflower, your leafy vegetables. They usually do well under diffuse sunlight. So that can happen, and that is, there is evidence that crop productivity is not being hampered to a great extent as was the initial apprehension with agrivoltaics. But if you are doing agrivoltaics, one reason should also be to ensure that your land is not taken up just by solar infrastructure, especially your fertile agricultural lands. Agri PV by the design itself will allow the farmer to cultivate and generate energy from the same piece of land. And that is what we even at ICRER feel that this model definitely has a strong merit. We need definitely more research into it, but the income augmentation model, income augmentation opportunity of this model is definitely tremendous, and we are hopeful that farmers in this country are able to reap dividend of this innovation in the coming days.
Uh, Vimal sir, I would like to ask,
Yes.
previously you told in like via our discussion, you told that the scope and the future of agriculture farmers and rural people to generate renewable energy and scale up renewable energy production. So I would like to ask, like, if everyone takes up renewable energy production or switch into energy production, so how will we deal with the food security aspect and how to scale up agriculture? Like the same thing Subhadeep sir was telling us that we have to do other schemes. So do you think as startups you can do some actions where we can also scale up and protect our agriculture sector from declining? Because now we have a declining agriculture state in India.
So see, I agree what Subhadeep has said, and things are very scary when it comes to Indian agriculture. Today, if you ask any son from of a farmer, he's not willing to take up agriculture as his first priority. He's looking for a comfortable job in a lavish office or a good office where he can contribute to the agriculture, but from the laptop or a PC perspective. I think that is very scary because we are a very populous country, and food security is going to be a very concern in case the next generation doesn't transform into a farming community. So I think that is going to happen anyway. That the change is going to happen anyway. You know what? We are talking here is the agrivoltaics is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. We cannot assume that each and every farmer or even a big farmer is going to invest in agrivoltaics, and he will get the returns, and he will continue the agrivoltaic part of it, because see, the returns are very long term. So if you talk agrivoltaics, the returns are going to come in 10, 12, 15 years. You need to wait patiently for that your investment to come on, because the investment is also going to be huge. Every party who's investing, despite the subsidy or the grant support coming in, I'm talking about that, because right now you're a very nascent stage. You cannot bring down the cost. All the technology will come at a high cost, and then there is an operation maintenance, and also you need to see that your crops or agriculture are not getting destroyed because you're producing solar energy, because that's the concept of agrivoltaics. The both should coexist, each should complement each other. So I feel that is a very I would say crucial element, going to happen. Yes, there will be agrivoltaics, because see, as Subhadeep said, in Rajasthan, I would say, somebody, a big farmer will come because he's earning less from the agriculture side and he expect to earn more from the solar side of it. So he might choose, okay, fine, I'm earning less by growing cumin or any other crop. Why not I put in solar also to enhance my earning, because see, even a big farmer is looking to have more earnings out of the land. So I feel that is going to happen for sure. But wherever agriculture is already prominent, like states like Maharashtra or Uttar Pradesh, there are less people likely to moving towards the solar PV or agrivoltaics, because see, they're already occupied with the agriculture side of it and they are having better returns, whether you're going wheat, rice, or the crops which are giving you a good component in terms of earning. I think they will not switch immediately to that. Also, 75% population in India is smallholder farmers, so definitely that is not going to switch to agrivoltaics or agrivoltaics we talk about. And for them, what we have done at Agrivijay is we have been bringing in small products or small renewable energy products which can become a household appliance and help them increase their savings and income. So like a solar atta chakki or a solar rice de-husking machine, solar sprayer, electric bush cutters, biogas digesters. So we are bringing renewable and green energy in small components, solar dryers we talk about. So I feel these products will be part of a smallholder farmer household. They will be renewable energy producer and consumer, but in small component. They will contribute their side because their focus is to have increased savings and income rather than the fighting against the climate change, because that's the automatic output coming in from their side. So I feel that is also going to happen. And while we talk about a 25% 20% population where we have productive farmers which are large scale farmers, they will definitely experiment this agrivoltaics, and you will see that most of the agrivoltaics project coming in with these big productive farmers, because they have a bandwidth to experiment. And when they do things, people follow also. So they are a very influential kind of a farmer in the community. Even they set the precedent for other farmers to follow and come in the future. So I think that is going to be a mix about it. I won't say agrivoltaics will be a everybody's cup of tea in the farmer community, I would say, in terms of the Indian context.
So, Pradeep sir, related to this, I would like to ask one question. Like, when we talk about like small farmers, I think agrivoltaics can be scaled up if they jointly work with FPOs. But since the FPOs in this country are not performing well, do you think such a method would be a possible alternative to scale up agrivoltaics? Because most of the FPOs are either running in losses or not doing well. So,
Absolutely, Shubha. So end of the day, every FPO is a business entity, right? So if a business entity is investing into a capital intensive innovation, that business entity's financial should be good. So again, like Mr. Vijay said, not every farmer can do. I feel not every FPO can do it. Firstly, they would need a sound annual turnover. They would need profitability to be recorded at least in the last 3-4 years. So overall, this business should be sound. Only then they could be, invest by themselves. But even then, even if FPOs invest by themselves, they would need some sort of support from the government, whether it is through a remunerative feed-in tariff or some sort of capital subsidy. That would be crucial, because most of the FPOs operate with very small and marginal farm holders, right? That is the reason why they're even collectivizing. That is the reason why they do synchronized production and collective marketing, because individually they would have very less bargaining power. But when they come together as an institution, their bargaining power and their forward linkages to the market, they expect that to improve. So FPOs can do it, but again, it would depend on the financial performance of the FPOs, past financial performance of the FPOs, and at the same time, they would probably need some sort of support from institution, some kind of policy support from the institution. to ensure the economic viability of their operations.
So finally, I would like to ask both of you, like, how practical is agrivoltaics or generation of renewable energy to fight against the climate change, and how can we introduce such renewable energy products like biogas or say agrivoltaics, etc., in agriculture to fight the climate change aspect of a country and meet our energy targets as well as the food security aspect of the country.
So I feel we are already ahead in terms of achieving the targets for the solar penetration, as recently Honorable Union Minister also announced that we are ahead of the targets. I feel agrivoltaics, there are lots of experiments going to happen, and if you want to fight against the climate change and contribute as a climate action movement, a carbon credit benefit has to come in for the agrivoltaic side. So if I'm doing an agrivoltaic project, if I'm motivated enough to generate carbon credit benefit, there was a component by Subhadeep that when we sell carbon credits, we will earn more money also. So money will also jump in once we generate carbon credits through these projects. So I think that is one way. The second is, I think lots of corporates, should enter and experiment, these things. And while they can have a carbon credit benefit aligned with their ESG compliance, they can invest in such projects which not only, are experiment to foster countries' growth, but also, they will, contribute to the energy demand of the country. And definitely, we will have scaling agrivoltaics across the country, successful agrivoltaics projects, because corporates will, in a way, will get their carbon credit benefit side of it. They can, also showcase their experiment on the agrivoltaic side. I would say their CSR component can be utilized here in terms of experiment. While I feel lots of iterations will happen, lots of policies will come in, and think government is also evolving the policies every now and then, so that more and more penetration of renewable energy can happen. That is very good for us. And I think once we have around 50 to 100 projects in agrivoltaics, once we have these pilots up and running across India, we will have a fair, market capture idea, like how the future is going to look, where we are evolving towards it. Because then we will have all the challenges coming in from the farmer side, from the community side, from the nation side, from the state side, from the government side, or from the private entity side. Everything will come in. And once that comes in, I think lots of policymakers will sit in, and will drive a policy and make this sector flourish. Because as good as I would say mini grids are, mini grids, which is a concept in Africa, it's booming like anything. I feel mini grids and agrivoltaics are going to be very evolutionary for a country like India. Because if we have scaling agrivoltaic projects or mini grids, I think lots of problems will get resolved. So if in a village, if there is a agrivoltaic project, it should have the power to serve the whole village in terms of energy demand. I think that is going to be a game changer in the future. If that happens, I think lots of problems will be resolved, and we will never face any energy short in terms of demand as well in the future. And parallelly, agriculture will also grow because agrivoltaics comes with that advantage. So I think a lot of good things will happen in the future. There is a promising side on the agrivoltaic side, but we haven't seen the worst side or the bad side of it yet. So we cannot comment on that. So until that happens, or we have good projects pivots on ground, I think we should be staying positive and working towards it, so that everybody knows about it and scale the agrivoltaics across India.
Yeah, so a very pertinent question, climate change and future of IPV. So, if we talk about solar in agriculture, the one aspect which has gained considerable traction and has seen some success, even in Kusum, it is the off-grid solar pumps. And the objective of having those off-grid solar pumps was to de-dieselize. Now we have, managed to achieve some success, I would say. If we go by the figures of PM Kusum, it is component B which has seen some success. But is it that farmers suddenly decided that no, we want to be environmentally friendly, so let's switch to solar pumps? We don't think so. I don't think so. It is because of the subsidy available, and at the same time, the so your diesel becoming expensive day by day. So environmental friendly policies are definitely the way to go, but that can only happen, or it can actually be scaled up, or farmers would only accept those policies when those environmental friendly policies are also economically secure policies for farmers. So the economic aspect of the agriculture is what the farmer at an individual level would be more interested in, and then the environment aspect would accordingly be taken care of. If we go by our policies currently, or our status in terms of our achievements in renewable, we are doing really good. So all our solar power plants, we are meeting our targets thanks to your big players who are setting up the solar power plants. So that target is anything being met. But if we think about farmers as to how they would do this juggle between the environment friendly and the economic aspect, I think it's always the economic aspect which would gain precedence. And the hope that with good sound policies and supportive framework, those economic security would automatically take care of the environmental aspects as well. uh, we live in a nation where it is almost more than 40% of our labor force is still engaged in agriculture. Agriculture continues to be the cornerstone of this nation. It is the very foundation of the rural economy still. So we feel yes, agrivoltaics in the future days, coming days, could play a small role in augmenting farmers' income and in strengthening this very foundation of the economy further. And but again, this is the economic aspect which I personally feel is as important as the environmental aspects when it comes to farmer making his decisions.
Just to add, I feel farmers will never think about environmental friendliness or a climate change. His main focus is how my savings are increased, or my income is increased, or my yield is increased. That's the only topic I want to hear. So I feel solar water pump success is because they have been replacing the diesel cost, which is around 10 to 15,000 a month. You have investing on the genset to run your electric pump, and diesel cost is increasing day by day. So if I'm investing 800 to 1000 rupees per day on diesel genset to run my milking machine, shaft cutters, electric pumps, I'm going to invest in a solar product to basically have my savings in perspective. And when I know that the pump is going to run for 5 year, at least in terms of warranty, which is given in terms of manufacturing, I think it is going to bring savings at least for 2 to 3 years for me. So I feel savings is the major focus, or increase income is the major focus for a farmer. Climate change is the output or a byproduct, you can say, when a farmer uses that product. And we at Agrivoltaic, we are also experimenting something, that we want that farmer have to generate carbon credit benefit out of it. So 10 years down the line, we want a farmer that he should say that I'm using solar because I'm earning through carbon credit as well. So I'm just not using solar for increasing my savings and income, but I have an additional income because I use renewable energy component, more carbon credit income or benefit I receive. So I think that can be a future perspective other than the agrivoltaics side of it.
Thank you, sir. There has been some YouTube chats from the live stream. We have got some questions. So the first question is like, since farmer awareness is crucial for scaling up agrivoltaics, could you help us understand the major concerns of farmers and their level of acceptance of this concept?
I think we
I
have
think,
answered in the discussion
yeah.
that the understanding for agrivoltaics for farmer is very limited right now, because we have been receiving calls at our call center that I want to install a agrivoltaic project.
Mm.
But the nitty-gritties are yet to be open, because we are also in the pilot stage. Everybody is in a very nascent stage, and I feel other than PM component, Kusum component A, nothing is fixed. Everything is variable. So I feel it is very difficult to generalize what is required. I will request to if you need more knowledge, you can discuss with the project developer like us, in detail, go and meet them in office, and you can have a clarity that how they can put in into agrivoltaics or get into agrivoltaics.
And the second question is, can agrivoltaics be integrated with India's green hydrogen mission or rural electrification goals?
I think for rural electrification, yes, because
Hmm.
as I said, you can actually make a whole village energy independent by using a productive farmer site for agrivoltaics. Green hydrogen, I would say that particular sector, is also at an nascent stage. So until that evolves as a whole, we have prominent green hydrogen sites across India. I will not comment on that site as of now because I feel that particular sector, along with agrivoltaic, both are in nascent stage. So I will not comment about both of them as of now.
So, Pradeep sir, is there any careers experience about the same with the green hydrogen sector? And
I would say I would completely agree with Vimal on this. On the green hydrogen itself is so nascency. It's difficult to comment, but at least on the rural electrification part, definitely. One way is that if you can have institutions buying energy from these farmers to offset their electricity bills. But also, if you look at commercial institutions, and this I'm drawing it from an example that we have studied, which is in Najafgarh. So it is a agri PV plant in Najafgarh near Delhi. Here they are selling energy to private institution, which is a hospital, private hospital. Now the private hospital would ideally be buying energy, electricity at commercial rate, right? So as long as the developer or the farmer is offering them a rate which is could be higher than feed-in tariff but lower than your commercial rate that they are paying, they are interested to buy. In fact, in this case, they are buying it, which is almost 7-8 rupees feed-in tariff. If you look at PM Kusum feed-in tariff, it's somewhere between 2.7 to 3.5 roughly. But this is the kind of difference that feed-in tariff, or you can have through selling through captive sources or through private institutions, especially who are otherwise would have to depend on commercial rate. So I feel on the rural electrification part, buying energy from or captive sources, buying energy from agri PV plant, these are possibility. Somewhat is already happening. Green hydrogen, I would also not like to comment. I think it's too early to pass the comment on that.
thank you, sir. Thank you to all our speakers for your insightful contribution and to our audience for your active participation. Today's discussion showed how agrivoltaics can play an important role in improving both farming and clean energy in India. At the same time, it reminded us that to make the model scalable, it's important for having better finance uh, and simple technologies and more awareness among farmers. We hope you found the session insightful and engaging. CPPR looks forward to bringing you more such conversation on key policies issues in the future. Stay connected with us through our social media channels for updates, insights, and information on upcoming events. Thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to welcoming you all at our next session. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Shobha. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much,
the
Vimal.
honor. Thank you, Subhadeep. Thank you,
We
Shobha. Bye
enjoyed the
bye.
conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.